Have you ever looked at a map of the Mongol Empire at its peak? It's massive, a sprawling territory stretching from the Pacific Ocean all the way to Eastern Europe. They conquered China, Persia, Russia, you name it. But there's a giant, glaring exception right in the middle of their sphere of influence: India. Why did the unstoppable Mongol horde, led by the legendary Genghis Khan, never add the subcontinent to their long list of conquests? The answer is a fascinating mix of brutal geography, military challenges, a bit of mystical legend, and some surprisingly pragmatic politics. Let's dive into the story of why the Great Khan stopped at India's doorstep. Our story begins in the year 1221. Genghis Khan, at the height of his power, has just obliterated the mighty Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. The last prince of that dynasty, a resilient and defiant man named Jalal ad-Din, is on the run. Genghis Khan and his armies are in hot pursuit, a relentless chase across mountains and deserts. This pursuit brings the Great Khan to a place he has never been before, the banks of the mighty Indus River, the historic gateway to India. With Jalal ad-Din cornered, Genghis Khan crushes his remaining forces at the Battle of the Indus. The Khwarezmian prince himself barely escapes, reportedly leaping his horse into the turbulent river and swimming to the other side. Genghis Khan stands there, on the very edge of the Indian subcontinent, with his victorious army. The path seems clear. So why didn't he cross? The first and most formidable obstacle wasn't an army, but the land itself. Look south from the Indus, and what do you see? Towering over the landscape are the Himalayas, the Hindu Kush, and other massive mountain ranges. These weren't just hills, they were the most imposing natural barriers on Earth. While the Mongols were masters of traversing difficult terrain, crossing these ranges with a massive army, including their vast herds of horses and supply trains, would have been a logistical nightmare of epic proportions. It would have been a slow, grueling process, leaving them vulnerable and exhausted before they even faced a major enemy. But let's say they managed to find a way through the mountain passes. They would then face an entirely different and equally hostile environment: the Indian plains. The Mongols were a people of the cold, dry steppes of Central Asia. Their bodies, their horses, and their entire way of life were adapted to that climate. India, especially as they would have arrived closer to the summer months, was the complete opposite. It was hot, incredibly humid, and tropical. This wasn't just uncomfortable, it was deadly. The suffocating heat would have exhausted their soldiers and, more importantly, their horses, which were the cornerstone of their military might. The climate would have also brought a host of new diseases that the Mongols and their animals had no immunity to, potentially decimating their ranks before a single arrow was fired in battle. The climate presented another, very specific military problem that struck at the heart of Mongol superiority: their bows. The Mongol composite bow was a marvel of engineering, a high-tech weapon of its time. It was made from layers of sinew, wood, and horn, all glued together. This construction gave it incredible power and range. But the glue that held it together was animal-based, and it had a critical weakness: humidity. In the damp, tropical air of India, the glue would have softened, causing the layers of the bow to separate or delaminate. Their most decisive weapon, the one that allowed them to dominate battlefields from a distance, would have literally fallen apart in their hands. Furthermore, the very nature of the Indian terrain was ill-suited for the Mongol style of warfare. They relied on open spaces, vast plains where their cavalry could execute their famous hit-and-run tactics, feigned retreats, and sweeping flanking maneuvers. India, however, was a land of dense forests, jungles, and countless rivers. This kind of landscape breaks up large formations and funnels armies into predictable paths, neutralizing the Mongols' advantage of mobility. It was the perfect terrain for ambushes and guerrilla warfare, where smaller, local forces could bleed a large invading army dry. And then there were the war elephants. While the Mongols had faced elephants before, the Indian armies, particularly the Delhi Sultanate, used them on a much larger and more organized scale. These massive tanks of the ancient world could be terrifying to horses that had never seen them before, potentially causing panic and breaking the Mongols' disciplined cavalry charges. Now, this is where the story takes a turn into the realm of legend and mysticism, but it was something taken very seriously at the time. According to the chronicles, as Genghis Khan pondered his next move at the Indus River, a strange creature emerged from the water. It was described as a Chuatuan, a sort of mythical unicorn, with a single horn and a green body. The creature supposedly bowed to the Great Khan 3 times, as if pleading with him. Genghis Khan's chief advisor, a man named Yelu Chutsai, interpreted this as a divine omen. He told the Khan that this was a sign from his deceased father's spirit, warning him against further bloodshed and urging him to turn back. For Genghis Khan, who was deeply spiritual and believed in signs from the heavens, this was a powerful message. Whether the event truly happened or was a convenient story, it provided a powerful, supernatural justification for a decision that was already making a lot of practical sense. Beyond the challenges of geography, climate, and mystical creatures, there was a cold, hard political calculation to be made. To the south of the Indus lay the Delhi Sultanate, a powerful and well-established Islamic empire. Under the rule of Sultan Iltutmish, it was a formidable military power, not some weak, fragmented kingdom ready to be picked off. Conquering it would have required a full-scale, prolonged, and bloody campaign with no guarantee of success. At the same time, Genghis Khan was not an idle conqueror. He was also a state builder. He had just conquered a vast territory stretching across Asia and needed to consolidate his rule, secure his borders, and organize the administration of his new empire. The pursuit of Jalal ad-Din was about eliminating a threat to his existing territory, not necessarily about acquiring new lands. Launching a risky invasion of India would have diverted resources and attention from the crucial task of solidifying the empire he had already built. It was simply a strategic overreach, and Genghis Khan was too brilliant a strategist to make that mistake. So, in the end, Genghis Khan turned back. He left a contingent of troops to garrison the region but took the main body of his army and headed north, back towards the familiar lands of Central Asia. And so India, through a combination of its formidable geography, a climate hostile to the Mongol way of war, the strength of its defenders. And perhaps a little bit of myth and legend was spared the full terrifying force of the Mongol conquest under Genghis Khan. While his successors would later launch raids into India, the dream of a full-scale conquest never materialized. The subcontinent remained one of the few major world civilizations that didn't fall under the shadow of the Great Khan, an unconquered jewel just beyond his grasp. Thank you so much for watching. It's a fascinating piece of history that shows how even the most powerful empires have their limits. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.